One of the most important parts of game development and one of the most underrated topics when talking about game development is what actually got me in trouble when developing Pocket Galaxy. And the funny thing is, it's actually one of my favorite topics. It's something that I always focus on. It's something that I start most of my games with. And why it got me in trouble this time was because I didn't want to define it. I wanted to find it through the development process. I talked about this in my previous videos, so please check it out. But what I'm talking about is game mechanics. Hi, I'm Yashar, and this is my journey developing Pocket Galaxy. So what are game mechanics? Game mechanics are methods designed to interact with the game. What does that mean? Let's use an example. Minecraft. We start the game, we walk to the first tree, we press a button, and we start knocking on the trunk of the tree, which then we can break it down and get some items from. The action or the interaction of us knocking on the trunk of the tree and breaking it is a game mechanic. But what's the difference between a game mechanic and interaction? Well, if I use it in a more broader perspective, you can look at interactions as alphabets of a language, and the game mechanics are the rules or the grammar of the language. So on the same click, we can have different mechanics in different games. Let's use several examples to really hone this message down. In Hunt, we press E, an input, to enter dark side, to find clues. This is a mechanic of switching modes between normal and dark side. In GTFO, we press E to interact with other objects, with other systems. E is still the input, but the mechanic is completely different. I can go on and on about how different inputs interact and do different things in different games, but the underlying message I'm trying to convey here is game mechanics are a set of rules applied to an interaction. But when you look online, you also find another terminology used when talking about game design, and that's system design. We should not confuse system design with game mechanics or mechanics, because systems are basically a set of rules found within the game that players do not necessarily always have direct interaction with. So a day-night cycle is a system, it's not a mechanic. But if the day-night cycle is triggered by the player, that becomes a mechanic. To make this very, very easy and have a base to continue our discussion on, game mechanics are directly tied to player input. Game systems, on the other hand, are a set of rules within the game that game mechanics can interact with. So why did I focus so much trying to differentiate between system, interaction, and game mechanics? Why do I find so much value in focusing on such topic? Let's go back and compare different mediums. If we look at radio and we want to use it, we are listening to the radio. So if we cover our ears, we are not doing anything. It's just an empty box with electricity running through it. When looking at TV, we are watching and listening to TV. So if we cover our eyes, we are in a way only listening to radio. And for games, we are listening, watching, and interacting with the medium. So if we take the interaction away, we are only watching a movie. And as we know, interactions, inputs, can make the player feel different ways. When you click one button and your character does a very cool move, it feels good. And when designing the game, I usually like to focus what I want the players to feel after playing the game. So I focus on the feel, and by focusing on the feel of the game, I focus on the interaction, and that automatically leads into what mechanic can deliver that feel for the game. So with Pocket Galaxy, as you know from the previous videos, I wanted to focus on the sense of exploration and management. So I started with the simpler part, the management part, as I had a lot more experience working with similar games. I started by putting a very simple scene together, just trying to figure out some of the interaction and inputs that would work for mobile and PC. And slowly from there I started building the mechanic, which what I wanted to do from the beginning, finding the fun in it. But what I found out later down the line, and this is where I made the biggest mistake, was I did not think of the full system surrounding this mechanics, because I wanted to focus on exploration and management. And the exploration mechanic turned into a system somewhere in my development, and I did not realize that. And that was the galaxy system. The players have full control over their progression. The players have full control over their ship. But players have almost no control over the galaxy. They have control over where to be in the galaxy at what point, but the galaxy needs to work hand in hand with the management mechanic. And because I did not plan for this, and because I realized it's quite late down the line, I had to refactor a lot of the code. I had to revisit a lot of the design decisions that I will want to make down the line. And it slowed down the development quite a bit. I had to stop and abandon this exploratory development process and define the direction that I want the game to go. So early on, I knew a few things about the management system. I knew that players will have several crew members that they need to manage. Players will find different crew members and alien species to help them manage their ship. I knew we will have several different stations that will require different interactions from the character, and certain crew members will have boosts on these interactions. And third, I knew I need to mine the asteroids. So I started with these three mechanics: character selection, character assignment, and the mining mechanic. So I just put an asteroid in the scene, gave it some values, and I started to develop these interactions and mechanics. And one example of something that I didn't realize was I did not design for any challenge mining the asteroid. So I always assumed there will be one mining station that I can upgrade to add more drones to. So when you think of it in a bigger picture, then suddenly that idea contradicts having more crew members to help mine. So that meant I need to have multiple mining stations, which then resulted in me thinking about how does the ship interact with the galaxy? Does the ship grow? Can I add modules on the ship that expand it? And all of this caused a lot of trouble down the line. But the bigger problem was I was focused on the management system, and I was only thinking about how to add more stations, how to add more characters, generally thinking about how to scale these. And this is where I fell into the biggest rabbit hole. I completely ignored the galaxy generation. And when I had the galaxy generation, which I will talk about in later videos, I realized the game is not fun. The management was okay, the interactions work, but there was no exploration. It was very similar to an idle game, and that was not the main goal of the game. At this point, I have spent so much time trying to figure out the management system, and I was trying too hard to build a system that fits it all. And the funny thing is, I didn't even know what all is. I spent so much time creating very complex component systems that I can easily add to different game objects and create something new that I lost sense of the direction. So in short, if I would summarize this, I would break it down into three main learnings. First, if you want to do an exploratory development, please do it on a separate project and its own separate enclosure. Have prototyping as part of your main process if you really want to explore. Second, in the same vein, don't build the code from the beginning to fit it all. First, try to find the fun. This is obvious, and this is what I usually do for my other games. But this time, I thought, with my experience, I can figure it out. No, it just doesn't work. And third, spend time early on thinking about the mechanic and the direction. It's okay to change the direction halfway through, but think about all the decisions, think about all the mechanics and systems that you might have, and if at any point of the development you see something's not working, pause, reflect, and take action based on what is best for the game. And of course, I'm talking from a privileged point of view, as I do not have a hard deadline. The worst part about this is I knew all of this before going into the project. I believed in these processes. I am a big advocate of prototyping and making dirty code and just having fun with it. But I was too focused on just trying to make a different experience developing the game that I did not draw from my previous learnings, things that I already knew. It's weird that you learn something that you already knew. It just makes it that much more painful. Thank you guys for listening, and feel free to let me know if you like these videos and if you're interested in the project, because there are more videos coming. Also, very soon we will have a first playable of the game, and I said we, yes, I'll cover that in the next video, and you can see the game a little bit more in detail. Again, thank you very much, and I'll catch you guys next time.